there's still to this day,
of course,
all day long,
yes,
people going, you know, through the house. And there's just this like sort of love that just doesn't stop. And I really love that. And it makes the house feel, you know, it's alive.
Graceland has always felt like a shrine to pop culture. The white columned mansion where Elvis Presley built a life that still hums in vinyl and memory. In early 2024, a bizarre foreclosure notice threatened to auction off Graceland after the sudden death of Lisa Marie Presley, and her daughter Riley Keough refused to accept it. Federal agents uncovered a sealed room on Graceland's second floor, stuffed with disturbing artifacts, shattered furniture, rows of porcelain dolls, forged legal papers, and a USB drive that mapped a long-planned plot to steal the estate. This story is equal parts true crime and family drama. It is a cultural betrayal with real legal teeth. At the center is a granddaughter who stepped up. Over the next few minutes, we'll unravel how obsession, forgery, and one woman's determination almost rewrote the fate of Elvis Presley's legacy. Here's what the FBI found in Elvis Presley's mansion, and it's not looking good. Stay with us. This is a true story about inheritance, obsession, and the fragile guardianship of memory. The house that rock built, inside Graceland's enduring allure. Imagine a young Elvis Presley, just 22 years old, already electrifying stages and radio waves, walking through that iconic gate on March 19th, 1957. With quiet determination, he wrote a $1,000 down payment on a $102,500 mansion. A bold move that would echo for decades. That day, Graceland wasn't just a Southern colonial home. It was the seat of destiny for a legend in the making. Today, tourists pass through velvet ropes into rooms frozen in Elvis's embrace. The jungle room provokes the senses. Avocado green shag on the floor and ceiling, Polynesian decor, and an impromptu recording studio where Elvis laid down tracks. This room was designed as much for surprise as style. The TV room, with its 3 side-by-side televisions, whispers of his craving for control, an early adopter of ultimate viewer choice. Then there's the meditation garden. Soft sunlight catches the statue and the graves where Elvis, his mother, and his daughter lay in peace. It's quiet there, but heavy with memory. Now, imagine the weight on Priscilla's shoulders after Elvis's passing in 1977. Graceland wasn't just emotionally sacred, it was financially draining. Maintenance hovered around $500,000 a year. Pressed by looming taxes and dwindling revenue, Priscilla agonized over the unimaginable: open her home to the public or lose it entirely. She hesitated. After all, Graceland was the only thing Elvis and I had that wasn't on public view, she said later. Opening it felt like betrayal, but history called. Inspired by places like Hearst Castle that had preserved grandeur without hollowing it out, she took a leap of faith. On June 7, 1982, with a blue ribbon cut by a solemn Priscilla and a steady CEO, Graceland opened its doors. More than 3,000 fans paid $5 each that day. Within just over a month, the estate had recouped its initial $500,000 investment. From that turning point, Graceland soared, valued at over $100 million and visited by hundreds of thousands annually, becoming the second most visited home in America after the White House. Think about that. A private sanctuary transformed into a cultural cathedral through necessity and strategic brilliance. Fans arrive seeking connection and leave with a piece of history. For the estate, each ticket and tour is a delicate act of preservation and profit. That tension between soul and spreadsheet gave Graceland its mythology. It wasn't just Elvis's legacy, it was Priscilla's gamble, Lisa Marie's inheritance, and ultimately the fight that would test how sacred a place can be. Stay with us because as we go deeper into the story, the emotional pulse turns sharper. We begin with loss, ripple into controversy, and brace for a shocking twist no one has ever imagined. Heartbreak and air, Lisa Marie's legacy and Riley's burden. Everything changes after Elvis passes. His only child, Lisa Marie Presley, is the heir to his estate, but she was a child still. At just 9 years old, when Elvis passed away in 1977, she inherited his estate alongside her mother and grandmother. then gradually became the sole beneficiary by the early 1980s. Fast forward to 1993 on her 25th birthday, Lisa Marie officially takes control of the estate. Suddenly, the weight of generations falls squarely on her shoulders, with Graceland at the heart of it all. Yet, managing Elvis's vast legacy is no small task. Financial troubles soon emerge. Lisa Marie sued her business manager, Barry Siegel, accusing him of reckless and negligent mismanagement. She claimed her $100 million inheritance had been whittled down, leaving her with just $14,000 and overwhelming debt. On the flip side, Siegel pushed back, saying she had squandered her fortune through extravagant spending. Meanwhile, legal complexities kept stacking up. As Lisa Marie's financial struggles deepened, her mother and other parties questioned the validity of revisions she made to her estate plan. Priscilla Presley filed suit, challenging a 2016 amendment that removed her as trustee and named Lisa Marie's children, Riley and the late Benjamin Keough, as beneficiaries. That moment marked the beginning of a deeper shift. A daughter's private grief blended into a public legal battle. Lisa Marie's tragedy deepened when her son Benjamin passed away in 2020, and just years later, she passed away in January 2023 at age 54. Graceland was left without a steward until Riley Keough, her eldest daughter, stepped in. Despite forging her own career as an actress, Riley inherited this heavy legacy: the care of Graceland, the legal trust, and the fragile remnants of her mother's estate. There's a poetic ache here. Graceland's lineage turned over from a grieving mother to a granddaughter who must now fight for it. The flash of cameras, the hush of tour rooms, all shadowed by deeply personal pain. Then, in May 2024, the world watches Riley take a legal stand. A bizarre foreclosure notice hits the news, claiming Graceland is collateral on a $3.8 million loan. The notice names a sketchy group called Nosani Investments, alleging Lisa Marie borrowed the money in 2018. But Riley isn't buying it. She sued to stop the sale, calling the claims fraudulent, saying her mother never borrowed money, never gave a deed of trust, and that the lender is likely a fake entity. To make things more surreal, a notary whose signature appeared on the document swore, "I have never met Lisa Marie Presley, nor have I ever notarized a document signed by Lisa Marie Presley." In court, a judge granted an injunction halting the proposed auction, calling Graceland unique and saying losing it would cause irreparable harm. So here we are, a grandchild fighting fraud in public while carrying private grief. Riley stood her ground with a voice steady and strong, a granddaughter defending more than brick and mortar. She defended heritage, and that fight only grows more intense. The foreclosure scam unveiled. When that bizarre foreclosure notice appeared in early 2024, stating that Graceland was tied to a $3.8 million loan, fans thought things couldn't get crazier. But then Riley Keough, Elvis's granddaughter and trustee of the Presley estate, unleashed real legal firepower. She didn't just see litigation. She sensed a sinister plot targeting one of America's most sacred cultural landmarks. In May 2024, Riley filed a lawsuit on behalf of the Promenade Trust, which oversees Graceland. The suit alleged that Nosani Investments and Private Lending LLC presented completely fraudulent documents, claiming that Lisa Marie Presley had borrowed millions and used Graceland as collateral, a claim Riley fiercely disputed. On May 22, 2024, justice took center stage. Shelby County Chancellor Joe Dale Jenkins issued a temporary injunction stopping the auction in its tracks. Why? He recognized Graceland's unique status under Tennessee law and declared that a forced sale would inflict irreparable harm. Elvis Presley Enterprises didn't just breathe a sigh of relief, they released a powerful statement. As the court has now made clear, there was no validity to the claims. There will be no foreclosure. Their words echoed across headlines and social media, signaling that the estate was defended as fiercely as the legacy itself. But the story didn't end with legal maneuvers. Shortly after, Nosani Investments dropped all claims with prejudice, which means they cannot reopen the case in the future. Then, in a stunning twist, federal authorities brought the real culprit into focus. A woman from Missouri, Lisa Janine Findley, was arrested in connection to the scheme. She later admitted guilt to mail fraud, accused of drafting forged documents, inventing a fake lender, and impersonating people connected to the Presley family, all to manipulate Graceland into being seized. The Tennessee Attorney General's office called the ploy nonsense, while media and fans rallied behind Riley with fervor. Hashtags like Justice for Presley and Save Graceland flooded social platforms, and sympathetic coverage from celebrity outlets amplified the emotional, cultural weight of what just happened. Why does this matter beyond courtrooms and headlines? Because this wasn't merely a legal victory, it was a defense of heritage, a stand against a twisted attempt to claim history for profit. Riley didn't just fight for property. She confronted a malicious effort to rewrite her family's narrative, and by extension, a piece of America's cultural soul. As the dust settled, fans and preservationists alike realized how fragile iconic symbols can be, how easily greed and forgery could morph into existential threats. But in the face of deceit, integrity and justice held firm. The criminal case. What began as an astonishing civil dispute quickly escalated into a federal criminal investigation, exposing a calculated attempt to seize one of America's most cherished landmarks. By August 2024, investigators had identified and arrested a suspect, Lisa Janine Findley, of Kimberling City, Missouri. Authorities say Findley used multiple aliases, fabricated legal documents, and impersonated representatives of a sham lender to support a manufactured foreclosure claim against Graceland. Federal prosecutors charged Findley with mail fraud and aggravated identity theft, alleging she falsely claimed that Lisa Marie Presley had borrowed $3.8 million and used Graceland as collateral. According to court filings and press reports, Findley published a fraudulent foreclosure notice in a Memphis newspaper and demanded roughly $2.85 million to avoid auctioning the estate. The indictment describes a scheme built on forged signatures, counterfeit notary affidavits, and fabricated corporate documents intended to give the scam a veneer of legitimacy. The Tennessee Attorney General's office initially investigated the unusual filings and then referred the matter to federal authorities. The U.S. Postal Inspection Service and the FBI's Nashville field office joined the probe, signaling the multi-agency seriousness of the case. Prosecutors and investigators characterized the plan as brazen, one that targeted not only financial interests, but a cultural treasure with global significance. On February 25, 2025, the case reached a decisive turning point. Findley appeared before a federal judge in Memphis and pleaded guilty to one count of mail fraud. In open court, she admitted responsibility for the scheme. As part of the plea agreement, prosecutors moved to dismiss the aggravated identity theft charge. The Department of Justice's press release detailed how Findley created a fake lending company, submitted forged documents, and disseminated false filings as part of an effort to extort money and precipitate a bogus foreclosure. The guilty plea brought a measure of closure and underscored how layered legal responses had protected the estate. Riley Keough's civil complaint and the Shelby County Court's injunction halted the planned sale and gave federal investigators time to collect evidence, trace paper and electronic trails, and pursue criminal charges. That intersection of civil litigation and criminal enforcement was crucial to preventing an irreversible transfer of title based on fabricated claims. Still, the episode laid bare vulnerabilities. Legal analysts and preservation advocates said the case is a cautionary example of how determined fraudsters can exploit paperwork, public filings, and loopholes in enforcement across state lines. Prosecutors framed the prosecution as a broader deterrent. When identity theft, forged court filings, and fraudulent notices target estates or landmarks, federal resources will be brought to bear. Public reaction was emotional. Fans, preservationists, and local officials voiced relief when the sale was halted, and Elvis Presley Enterprises issued a statement affirming the court's finding that the claims lacked validity and that Graceland would not be sold. rebuilding trust and protecting a legacy. When the courtroom doors finally closed on the Graceland fraud case, this wasn't just a legal win. It was a chance to rebuild trust in one of America's most iconic homes. But healing wasn't about filing papers or closing vaults. It was about restoring the emotional heartbeat of a place millions cherish. Riley Keough emerged from the courtroom not as just an heir, but as a guardian. She didn't throw a victory party. Instead, she quietly vowed to preserve her family's legacy, and the world began noticing. Elvis Presley Enterprises reaffirmed this commitment. Their statement was simple yet powerful. There will be no foreclosure. Again, fact reiterated to fan and visitor alike. But what does preservation look like when the threat is no longer a mere rumor, but proven criminal intent? Authorities and estate managers got proactive. Security experts and forensic accountants were brought on to audit documents and digital records. Estate lawyers reviewed and strengthened trust language. Though the upgrades weren't flashy announcements, their effect was clear. Graceland was now under a fortification of legal and operational protection. The moment wasn't just behind closed doors. Across online forums, social media feeds, and Elvis-centric fan clubs, conversations buzzed with relief and hope. Comments like, "Graceland stands because someone refused to let it fall," appeared. Fans posted snapshots of their visits with more gratitude than ever. Selfies by Elvis's grave, notes in his meditation garden, long lines outside the gates that felt less like tourism and more like solidarity. Local leaders echoed that sentiment. Shelby County officials praised Riley's swift legal action, noting that losing Graceland would have dealt a cultural blow to Memphis of incalculable loss. Heritage organizations in Tennessee quietly referenced the lawsuit in discussions of how to better protect sites of historical importance. They cited it as a cautionary tale that crime doesn't just target money, it can go after memory. There's a powerful lesson here. Authenticity doesn't just come from labels, it's upheld through actions. Riley didn't need to broadcast sweeping renovations. Instead, her legal faith and quiet stewardship did more to reassure than any ribbon cutting could. This was preservation with purpose, not just keeping bricks intact, but safeguarding emotional resonance. And so here's the beauty of the story's aftermath. The house still hums with life. Tours continue, laughter echoes through the jungle room, and flowers bloom anew by the meditation garden, blooming under the weight of history and the promise of tomorrow. And in the end, Graceland's survival became more than just a headline. It became a living testament to what can happen when history has a protector who refuses to look the other way. The estate stands today not merely as Elvis's former home, but as a beacon for fans, families, and future generations who understand that some places are worth more than money. They are worth fighting for. Graceland's next chapter with Riley Keough as its guardian. Graceland isn't just a museum, it's the Presley family home, wrapped in grief, legacy, and devotion. Now named sole trustee and estate owner after Lisa Marie Presley's passing, Riley Keough stands at the heart of its next chapter, and she's doing so with purpose. Riley has been clear about her mission. "My hope is to continue what my grandmother and my mother did, which is simply to preserve our family home." Graceland holds historical prestige, and she wants to ensure it remains both a shrine to Elvis and a living family place. It's a balance few could pull off, honoring public interest while safeguarding the personal sanctity of the home. Her connection to Graceland isn't new. Riley told people, "I was very involved in estate affairs already. My mom would come to me with everything." So stepping into this role wasn't an abrupt takeover for her, it was the passing of a carefully prepared baton. In October 2024, Riley opened the doors to Oprah for a deeply human tour of Graceland. Intimate items like Elvis's black box, his old American Express card, and even a comb lay before viewers. It was emotional and raw, yet also deeply comforting, like someone touring their childhood home and sharing memories, not just artifacts. Still, grief is part of the soil here. Riley publicly dismissed the idea of a Presley family curse, even calling it weird. She explained that the tragedies like Elvis's twin stillbirth, her brother Benjamin's, and her mother's passing were heartbreaking but human. Everyone has loved somebody with addiction issues or has lost somebody tragically, she said. She refused to let myth overshadow reality. In interviews, Riley's tenderness toward the estate shines. She remembers childhood meals cooked by the family's chefs, southern dishes like fried catfish, greens, hush puppies, and banana pudding. The familiarity of Graceland, both refuge and home, shaped her life. Behind the scenes, Riley also closed a major legal chapter with Grace. Paperwork, trust revisions, and legal clarifications settled a potential conflict with her grandmother Priscilla. As one insider put it, clarity has been had. While the public acknowledged the dispute, Riley focuses now on unity and healing. For Riley, managing the estate is not just a touristic venture. Graceland remains deeply personal. Riley's ambition, she said, is to keep the feeling that Graceland is still a home for our family, not just a tourist destination. Her vision is rooted in intention, not trend, with hopes of educational outreach, honoring Elvis's impact, and keeping the estate connected to its Memphis roots. You can sense the care in her words when she said, "It was our family's home." No fanfare, just a granddaughter safeguarding what matters most. That delicate interplay between public legacy and private memory gives this story its emotional depth. And perhaps that's what makes Riley's role so compelling. She's not simply preserving bricks, velvet curtains, and gold records. She's preserving a living story. Every creak in the floorboards, every faded photograph, every note of Elvis's voice drifting through the halls carries a piece of her family's soul. By holding on to Graceland, she's holding on to the memories, the love, and the lessons that came before her. In doing so, she's ensuring that future generations don't just visit history, she wants them to feel it. Riley Keough's Vanity Fair confession. Now we step into Riley Keough's most candid chapter yet. From a childhood lived in public halls to a daughter's quiet memorial in print. When Riley graced the cover of Vanity Fair in September 2023, the story wasn't celebrity fluff. It was an honest vulnerability wrapped in Southern elegance. She walked us through the surreal magic of hiding in Graceland, while tourists roamed downstairs. The tours would start in the morning, and we would hide upstairs until they were over, she recalled. Security would deliver sausage and biscuits, a makeshift breakfast made possible by the estate's staff, still serving comfort dishes long after Elvis's passing. Her childhood was extreme, but not in headline ways. It was visiting Neverland, staying at a Florida mansion beside the Scientology HQ, holidaying in Scotland or on Nicolas Cage's yacht. Graceland was only ever visited for special occasions. Still, it was clear Graceland wasn't a museum to her. It was really important to my mom to have it feel like our family home, even though it was a museum, she said. Then came the most raw recollection of all. The last time she saw her mother. They'd had dinner following a party for the Elvis movie before the Golden Globes, just days before Lisa Marie's sudden passing. That was the last time I saw her. I remember thinking how beautiful she looked, and that was my strongest memory of the dinner, Riley revealed. Riley spoke of pain and awakening. She said she'd felt like parts of her died, and that rebuilding herself meant strengthening qualities born from adversity. But the interview wasn't just grief, it was a tribute. She called her mother one of a kind, fiercely loyal and unapologetically herself. She said she was a lioness. The treachery Lisa Marie endured, the lack of authentic relationships that Riley said shaped her into a powerful, loving, loyal, and really a wonderful mother. In another interview, she remembered catching her mother sitting alone, listening to Elvis music, tears streaming down her face. Her grief was she didn't know how to process it. Riley shared about her mother. Watching her mother slip away was a private heartbreak that echoed through rates of addiction and loss in their family story. And then there's the memoir left unfinished by Lisa Marie, but carried across the finish line by Riley. Working through hours of audio tapes, listening to her mother's voice was transformative. she returned to childhood memories. "I was 8 again, singing to Aretha Franklin," she said. Yes, it was agonizing, but also healing, like having her mother in the room again. There was purpose in this act of literary love. What she wanted to do in her memoir is to go beneath the magazine headline idea of her and reveal the core of who she was, Riley shared. Her goal? To allow readers to know her mother's raw humanity, her joy, pain, addiction, and love in full measure, unfiltered by fame. Lastly, a tender detail is the name of Riley's daughter, Tupelo Storm. Chosen thoughtfully, Tupelo for Elvis's birthplace, and Storm to honor her late brother Benjamin Storm Keough. It's a passing of legacy, anchored in love and memory. And there you have it, a rare, unfiltered glimpse into Riley Keough's world, straight from the pages of Vanity Fair. From treasured memories of Lisa Marie Presley to the weight of carrying her family's iconic legacy, Riley's journey is both deeply personal and universally resonant. But this is just one chapter in a story still unfolding. As she continues to honor her mother's memory and her grandfather's legacy while navigating her own path in Hollywood, one thing is certain: the Presley name is in passionate, capable hands. So, what's next for Riley? Well, if her past is any indication, the best is yet to come. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Riley Keough's heartfelt reflections and the legacy of the Presley family, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the notification bell so you never miss our next story. We uncover the untold chapters, the personal journeys, and the behind-the-scenes moments that shape the lives of your favorite stars. Drop your thoughts in the comments, because we love hearing your take on these stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.